Howdy, Doug.
Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Oh, it's good.
Have you left VMware yet?
I have.
How's life after VMware?
It's awesome.
What are you up to these days?
I am I'm working on a stealth startup.
I kind of assumed you guys were doing something like that.
Yeah.
I assume you're doing it with your cohorts.
Yep.
Anything you want to say, or still too private?
No, we'll announce the details in October.
Okay, cool.
But for now, maybe mark me as a stealth startup Scott. In the
SSS, Stealth Startup Scott. Got it.
I took a couple weeks off and now I'm back.
Cool.
Oh, reminds me. Do we have a base presentation that we've been giving for KubeCons for cloud events?
Yes, I can send you links to the previous KubeCons that we did. I assume it's pretty much going to be the same thing, just maybe in your own words. But yeah, I can send those to you.
Yeah, I was just going to start with what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And I might jazz it up from there.
Yeah, that's fine. Hold on. Let me.
You don't have to do it right now.
No. I was going to actually just make a note for myself because otherwise I will forget.
Yeah, I'll ping you after this meeting too.
Yeah, that's always good too. I don't mind nagging.
That's great. I've been working on swag and website stuff for the launch.
Cool. Always good.
So if you play your cards right, there's a T-shirt in it for you.
It makes it all worthwhile. My son's entire wardrobe these days is basically my conference T-shirts.
Mine too.
Yeah, just funny. So I can't remember. Were you planning on doing some work on an interop demo around discovery, or is that off the table?
I would love to, and I think I'm just trying to balance my time right now, and there's a bunch of pressing things that I need to kind of work on at the moment.
Okay.
I think I said I might have some bandwidth in October.
Okay.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Remy. And hey, Tommy. Or sorry, yo, Tommy.
Yo.
I do think it's amusing that the person who is probably the most reliable to be here every single week, despite being in possibly the worst time zone, is Tommy. It's just amusing to me.
Good job, Tommy. You know, my attendance is pretty good too there, Doug.
No, it is. It is. It's just, I mean, it's like consistent every single week, never missing it. Just love it. Hey, John. Whoops, if I could spell your name right. I think you're on mute, John. I think it's on the mute on your side, not through Zoom.
Good morning.
Hey, Klaus.
Hey, Doc.
And Clemens. Clemens, you on mute? He must have walked away.
Hey, Doug, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse. Oh, Remy, just so you know, I just ran my test again, and hold on a minute. I get distracted. Let me do Jesse first. Oh my gosh, so off. Hold on a minute. Yeah, Eric.
Hello, Doug.
Hello, Lance.
Hello.
Hello, and Ginger.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, and I think that's everybody. Okay, yeah, Remy, I just ran the test again, and I get one error. When I try to get the service by its ID, I get a 404.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Let me check. I think it's because it's implemented first with names and not ID, so probably did screw up something on the ID. I'll check.
Okay, not a problem.
Actually,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Clemens, I hear you now.
Okay, great. Because I'm in the car, and that was a little bizarre here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey. Okay. Obviously, I can't do anything about it anytime soon, but I want to make sure you saw my ping through Slack in the demo channel about some of the errors I was seeing with your stuff.
I have not been able to pay attention this week, but I will again.
Okay. Yep. Just want to make sure you were aware that the ping is out there.
Yeah, I spent the budget on the tenant bridges write-up thing, which I'm probably going to post later today as a gist because it's not spec worthy yet, but I'd like to get some feedback on it.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey Doug, Christian here.
Hey, Christian, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going. It's going.
That's
Got
good.
off some India time shifts, so yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. All right, one more minute, they'll get started. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, John thinks that's out of date. I will cross it out. All right, community time. Anything from the community people want to bring up that's not on the agenda? All right. Technically, we have a discovery call after this one. I think the call is going to be short today, so we may just do a quick sync up before the end of this call to talk about discovery interop. Probably not a whole lot to talk about, but just in case somebody does want to bring up something. KubeCon, anything from anybody that they know relative to KubeCon that we need to talk about? I haven't heard of anything recently. Ginger, have you heard of anything going on there that we need to talk about?
I don't believe so.
Okay, cool, thank you.
There was I don't know if anybody saw the interesting post that was, or the thread that was on Twitter about KubeCon though.
No, what were they saying? I missed that.
It was, I'm not quite sure what happened actually. There was a particular person who was asking about people going to KubeCon, and then it kind of devolved into some horrible bullying session about people not going to KubeCon because of COVID and stuff. And it was very interesting. So if anybody has any free time and they want to read about some drama, just look at the Twitter tag KubeCon and you'll see it.
Yeah. Now you got me curious. Otherwise, I'll forget. Hold on. Let me just do a quick search first, and then I'll read it later.
If you're bored at lunch and you want some entertainment. Yeah, I don't know. And then there's some commentary about the guys, Twitter being hacked, but I'm not sure that really happened. And I don't know. But I know there has been some questions about attendance and stuff because of COVID and all that.
So are people complaining saying they don't want to go because of COVID, or people saying you shouldn't go because of COVID? I mean, what?
Folks are saying, I'm not going because of COVID mostly. And then this particular person kind of was bullying them about that.
Got it. Okay.
So.
All right. Okay.
So was that, sorry for asking the question, but the particular person is not an official CNCF person, is it?
No, they are not.
Okay.
But they are a Kubernetes contributor, I believe.
Well, okay.
Interesting.
Well, not so bad then.
It was just very interesting to see all the drama going back and forth. But anyway,
Okay.
no one should be bullied not to or to go to KubeCon.
That is correct.
whether-
That is
So,
correct.
yeah.
Interesting. All right, cool. All right, some good lunchtime reading. Thank you. All right. Okay, so just a reminder, Clemens, we're still waiting for the updates on your PR because of the RFC keywords. So when you get a chance, please look at that one.
Yeah, as said, this week was a little, as many of my weeks are, but this week was particularly terrible for it. I will pay attention to it, and I will do it before the end of this week. How about that?
Okay, that's fine. No, just doing my job of nagging. That's fine.
Yes, sir. You're doing a great job, nagging.
It feels like that's my job most these days. Not just for this group, just inside IBM. They keep calling this one meeting, Doug's nagging meeting. It's like, I don't thank you, but no. It's my job. All right, thank you. Okay, this one is from Remy. Minor syntax thing. You want to talk to this one, Remy? It's very minor.
Yeah, I think it's just to reflect the change in the spec. I was working on it for once, so I finally found something that like, so I just fixed it.
Yeah, basically, I think we just turned this thing into an array, basically, more than anything else. So,
No,
yeah, okay. Any objection to this one? Seems straightforward. All right, cool, thank you. Whoa. There we go. All right, so add PowerShell list of SDKs. This one, there isn't much thought process here. He's just, what was the gentleman's name? I can't remember. Michael. Michael was just adding it to the list of places we list all the SDKs. The only thing I did is I think he needs to alphabetize it because these lists are alphabetized. But obviously, I assume no one has any objection to adding PowerShell to the list of SDKs. All right, easy. Why does it keep doing that? That's so weird. All right, cool. All right, this one is a new one, and it's too soon to approve because I just opened it last night. However, I did want to discuss it with you to make sure everybody's on the same page. While doing interop testing against Clemens endpoint in particular, when I did a get against his discovery endpoint, and I specified name equals foo, when there was no service by that name, Clemens was returning a 404. And I was interpreting the spec as if there's no results from the query, I still should get back an empty array and a 200. I personally would prefer an empty array because I think treating a query with a 0 result set as an error does not feel appropriate to me. I think, Clemens, you probably coded it up kind of thinking of name as sort of a special case kind of a thing. And I was thinking more generically in case you do specify other attributes you're searching on. But I wanted to see what you guys thought. Should it be a real error like a 404? Or should a query with a 0 result set return an empty array? In particular, go ahead, Remy.
I think the empty array was in the spec. I'm fine with it.
Okay. Clemens, did you have a different opinion since you coded it up as a 404?
No, I don't think I did. That's probably the it might even be the tool that does that. I have to check again. I wrote that code in kind of a stretch of like 3 days, and then I put the code on the side. So I have to go and take a look at what I did there and whether I did that intentionally. But if I did that intentionally, it's been the yeah, you're asking for something that isn't there, and so therefore I'm giving you a 404. That was probably the intuition.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So do I have? I don't have an opinion either way, probably, or no strong enough opinion that I would fight for it. So if you guys think that returning an empty array is right, then that's okay.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't want to push for it to get approved today. I just opened it last night. So take your time to think about it. Everybody else, if you're okay with it, then just double check my wording. I'm obviously open to any kind of wording around here. I just thought we should probably make it clear in the spec, since obviously Clemens had a different interpretation, other people might as well. So we just need to make clear which way we're going to go with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think clarity is good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments on this? Anybody think this is the wrong way to go? Assuming Clemens doesn't think of a showstopper. Okay.
No, I do not.
Okay, cool. Okay, so as I said, have a week or so to think that one over. That's it for the agenda. I still have my action item. I need to go back and no, not that one. I have an outstanding PR about the whole query parameter thing and unknown queries and stuff like that. And I need to revamp that based upon some of the feedback I got. And Eric, thank you for the feedback, but I haven't had a chance to actually process it yet. So I'm still mulling over. I think you put a comment in there after last week's call. So I still need to think about that one. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, a few things worth mentioning, probably just because there's like activity that happens here on the call, and there's also activity that kind of happens preparing for work on the call. So I just wanted to make sure that that's transparent, that that's not just everybody is just sitting around and not doing any work. So I think Klaus is going to start working on putting the scoping concept into discovery. That's we just talked about that briefly. And then I am working on these tenant bridges thing, and since the discussion in the issue was probably caused by not enough clarity on what the problem is that we're trying to solve there. I wrote a fairly long narrative, and I don't know yet how much of that narrative really should be in the spec. So I'm going to go and put that up for review and discussion. I don't know whether I'm going to put that into an issue or put that into a gist and link it from the issue, just for legibility. But those are a few things that are happening kind of in parallel, because the feedback on this tenant bridging issue was, oh, well, that's pretty esoteric. Why do you need it? But it turns out that between SAP and Microsoft and the discussions that we've been having, we've been working on this for like 3 months, trying to wrap our head around the problem that we have two opposing identity and authorization systems that we could not put together except for making completely obscenely complicated stuff with OAuth and extra specs and I don't know what. So I think we landed at an easy solution. Unfortunately, the problem telling takes 3 pages. So I don't know exactly how to deal with that yet. But that's work that's being done. It's just not there yet for presentation. But I'm doing quite a bit of work on this, and Klaus is also spending quite a bit of time on his things. It's just that we're not there yet to bring them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to read that, because if nothing else, it seems like it'd be an interesting thing for the primer in terms of use cases or usage of the specs we're producing. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other topics people want to bring up? Otherwise, it's going to be a really short call today. Not hearing any. Okay, in that case, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, are we talking discovery or not?
In a minute, we have to officially,
I'll wait my minutes.
yeah, we have to officially end the call, and so people can drop. But Clemens, did you have something you want to bring up since you came off mute?
No.
Okay, in that case, Ben, you there?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, last chance. Any topics? Otherwise, everybody not doing discovery interrupt stuff could go or can go. Okay, not hearing any topics. Bye, everybody. I guess Clemens, Remy, if you guys can hang on, or anybody else interested.
Yeah.
Okay. Give it a sec for people to drop off. Okay. I don't really have anything concrete to bring up other than obviously you guys saw I was doing some testing.
Yep.
Please don't assume that my little test tool is correct. It's obviously it's very possible I have bugs in there. But what I've been trying to do is to have the tool spit out errors as I test things like the must and must nots, obviously the really required stuff. And then it should spit out as best it can statements about the shoulds. So those pop up as warnings instead of errors. But like I said, keep in mind, it may not be right. I am, excuse me, I am planning on trying to wrap this in a little web app so that I can host it. That way you guys can run it yourself. And I'll try to make the source code available so that people can add to it, or you can, identify bugs in my logic if we need to.
How bad is my endpoint?
Hold on.
You don't want to ask.
No, I'm curious.
Okay, so
This is
it wasn't that bad. So you got the 404 on the name thing. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Your IDs are not UUIDs. You're missing epoch. You're missing spec version, and that's basically it.
Okay. Yeah, my IDs. So so we may have to go and revisit that. The IDs are the ARM IDs of the objects that the events that are raising the events. And ARM meaning that is the Azure Resource Manager identifiers.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have GUIDs for those things. Like that is really that's like the path into the graph. And so that's probably where, like, sometimes like GUIDs are the case where you have artificial IDs, but then sometimes you actually have natural identifiers in systems, and we have a case where we actually have natural identifiers in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And there is really no good GUI equivalent. Like most of those resources kind of have GUIDs are the covers, but they don't surface. And it's not that you could go and find stuff with those GUIDs, because the GUIDs are then kind of, even though they're unique, they're spread across a federated set of services, which means that there's no central place where you can go and ask for what does correspond to this GUID.
Mm-hmm.
I love that problematic. I do agree with you.
Yeah. And personally, sorry, go ahead.
I think the ID, because they are specified as UUID unique across all systems of cloud events, it generates some issues. Like I will need to have a registry where I can just register my UUID. Because on my side, if you look at the code, it's really within the code that I register the services. So I did use a trick like this morning to create a UUID, which is like completely bad one. It's basically doing a MD5 of the name, which is the DNS type of name, and turn it into a UUID, which is not
you should
at all.
So for UUIDs, for UUIDs, you should always use the UUID algorithm, because there's a
I know that's why I'm saying it's
there's
not
whole science
correct.
behind it.
I'm not saying it's a good way. It's just a way lead, which is false, because you have no way to detect if you generate it through timestamp. Like, because even UUID, you have like 6 algorithms. But
and another piece of advice: banish MD5 from your life.
I disagree completely with that statement, even if I'm in security, because okay, you can do duplication. You can trick the algorithm.
Use Jenkins. Use
it's
Jenkins.
Like stupid.
Use. You know what? If you use MD5 in any software and that is for instance open source, and other people need to go and pick this up, like I would not be able to use it. I would be banned from using it.
Yeah, because of the
just
policy
saying.
inside. I do
exactly
I do understand on that. The reality of it is, like, in my opinion, it's the same. When let's say you use a MD5 for a password, like the risk is in fact that you on purpose create a set of passwords that can generate the same fingerprint, so it's useless.
Yeah,
I mean, But I do agree with you.
I'm
But
just saying,
let's not speak too
I
much
can't
about
argue
that
with
because
I can't argue with Microsoft corporate security policy.
I know.
So
don't
therefore,
worry.
whether that is right or wrong, or whether that makes sense, or what the use case is, MD5 is not allowed in any scenario, security or not. I'm just
So
saying.
what I'm saying is
Just
this is not like relevant because like I could use a SH256 if you wanted to, but that's not like the point. The point is more the fact that I think having a generate like a valid UUID across all cloud events needs for you to kind of register that UUID at one point and put it into your
no,
code.
it doesn't. It doesn't, because the UUID algorithm, the proper UUID algorithm is actually is very unlikely to produce dupes ever.
I know. It's just that if I use it in a code, that means I'll have to add a constant that is a UUID that I generate somewhere else. I cannot dynamically regenerate the same UUID because of the way UUID works. So that means
That's right.
if you don't want to have a constant in your code with a UUID that honestly is completely useless to you, I don't see a good way of doing it. Like, while basically I really like the name with like a reverse DNS. So let's say org.loopings. Something, because you can relate to the uniqueness of a DNS name. But the UUID by itself,
but it's so yeah, exactly. The UUID by itself doesn't give you like you need to have a reference to where's that, like the UUID only gives you uniqueness, but the UUID doesn't give you a point of reference where that belongs to. And
and that's why
sometimes
I
that's
think
okay.
I would prefer a
Sometimes
name
that's
that is
okay.
unique.
Say that again.
Like, in fact, I would prefer to have the constraint of being unique on the name. So let's say I do org.loopings.service.myservice. If I want to create a V2, then I will create a org.loopings.services.myservice.v2 or 2.
So there are two things here. There are two things happening at the same time with what you just said. First, there is a registry which guarantees uniqueness through the domain name system.
Yes,
so that's the first thing. So because you said org dot whatever, right? The name is somewhere, there is an authority which assigns and sells that particular name, and so that means that you now get to own all the namespace underneath it. So you get to decide on this, and then you can go and subdivide it, etc. So now you have that authority. The UUID, in contrast, I'm going to get to another point in a moment. The UUID, in contrast, is everyone can generate UUIDs at all times, and there will be no collisions anywhere in the world. Like there is no central registry required.
I know how
the algorithm is making it.
Both.
Yes. Okay. So that's the first element, right? So that is the uniqueness. The nice thing about DNS is, though, that you also have a way to kind of locate things with it. So it gives you organized uniqueness. You find out who that is, and then also you have a way to go and organize effectively where you can go and start looking up things, and where they are scoped into the system, and then you can go and anchor them into a system, because you kind of have that reference. And that is where what I have been describing is this ARM-ID is really a path into a system, and that is the IDs that I put into the code are kind of cheating still, because they're using the system in which I provide them is Azure. So I'm effectively making them kind of, everything is scoped to azure.com. And then, but I leave that off. It's effectively, there's a base URI that's implied for everything that is azure.com, and then there's the ARM URI underneath it. So there's effectively two qualities. First, those IDs are unique, but they're unique within the scope of the document that are returned. But then they are also directly corresponding to an object in the system that can then be found under that path. So those are the two qualities. One is uniqueness, uniqueness arguably within the scope of the thing that are returned, because that is important to kind of find that again and talk to it. And then the second is that there's actually a locatable resource that I can go and derive from that ID. That's the two qualities. And I think that's also that those two qualities, having this unique name, and then having that also corresponds to something that makes something in your system. I think that's where you were also alluding to.
Okay, so hold on a sec, Remy, in case you want to respond. Klaus had his hand up. So Klaus?
Yeah, so that's exactly one of the things I'm trying to address in the proposal I'm currently writing. So I wanted to more or less copy that schema ID concept from the schema registry, where you have an authority and an ID.
Yeah, that is the authority model was actually motivated by this, where you can have a for the schema registry, you it's okay to have a schema registry where the IDs are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically in the order of how you create schema groups or schemas, right? You don't need to have a UUID because everything is local to that registry, and you basically just go and add whatever the automated record number is, and that's fine as an identifier. But then if you externalize them, which means you start replicating those IDs, then they need to be unique in some way, and then you need to add some uniqueness, something that adds uniqueness, and that is effectively that mechanism, the authority, identifying who assigned that number.
So, okay, it seems to me, after all this talk, that this restriction we have in the spec that says it must be a UUID, that might be a little restrictive, right? But let's keep in mind, well, okay, right, but let's keep in mind, it needs, I think based upon what's in the text around it, it can't be unique per discovery endpoint, because we did want to do some sort of federation stuff. So we may just need to change the language that says, look, it needs to be globally unique or unique across all the discovery endpoints you may use or something like that, right? But UUID by itself is probably too restrictive is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes, that is correct. And it needs to be we need to find some language that expresses that. So local uniqueness is not terrible, right? But in scenarios where you're federating several systems together, you need to know what the scope is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For me,
so
the way
because
sorry,
I think in general the UUID has poisoned us in the industry in some ways, in that we're not thinking about the identifiers well. Because the great thing about local identifiers is that they're short. And since we're sending events around, and since we're dealing with documents that are sometimes, like installed events also needs to work for greedy environments, I'm not a fan of making everything a UUID, because it just bloats a lot. Like having a 3-digit number as an identifier will be likely sufficient for many schema registries and also many discovery systems.
Okay, Remy, your hand's up.
Yeah, like for me, the way I would address it, I'm not saying that's the right solution or the only solution. We really to like not enforce a full uniqueness by having an authority behind it, but just to say that like the best practices is like to follow your domain names that you own, and then add whatever you want behind. And so you define your uniqueness yourself. Does we need to have the authority that basically ensure that uniqueness? In my opinion, not really. If you decide to create rogue services and like kind of destroy the thing, I think it's in nobody's interest. So I don't really like. If you really want to implement it correctly and do interoperability, you will follow the norms So I would even not create an authority, just to say, like, by default, we recommend you to follow the domain name pattern. And I mean, if you don't, like, bad for you, like, you won't be super good at interoperability. And we can say it's a recommendation. If someone else wants to do something else, they can still do. And then that means we relax the UUID one.
Yeah. So Remy, would you be willing to take the action item to create a PR to fix the text in here? I guess in particular, this text here that says it must be a UUID.
Yeah, sure. I can work a little bit. Yes. I'm not gonna put everything on you.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Okay.
But like what I just said makes sense to you, or you think?
Well, I definitely agree with the general direction. I don't know. I haven't thought about it enough to think about what the exact text would be like, but I agree with you that we need to allow for different formats. We can give, suggestions or recommendations that maybe UID is a good choice if it fits for you. But I think everybody's going in the same general direction. Just we need to loosen it a little to allow more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I put, okay, I'll do that, and I had some recommendations. So
yeah.
Another topic I was working on like last week was implementation of Cloud Event SQL, and I just found out that we have two methods that is called isBool and isInt, but I don't really see how useful it can be, because you don't have the if implementation. So it's really okay. Let's say maybe if the attribute has changed from integer to something else, and you only want the cloud events who are like, you don't have that many possibility to use isInt and isBool. So I was wondering if you have an opinion on that, or, and I think Slinky is not really part of this group anymore, or maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, he's off doing other things. I personally don't have an opinion about that. Does anybody else have an opinion about that? I'm trying to even find it.
Yeah.
You said there should be an isBool, because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Let's see an isBool or an, it's underscore bool. There we go. Okay, that's why I missed it.
So those two, I mean, I did implement them. It's not an issue to implement them, but I was wondering like how you really want to use them, because
I'm not too enthused about several of these casting functions. Are they in SQL?
What do you mean in SQL? In the original SQL?
Yeah, I don't think they are.
I mean, because NoSQL, I didn't do any so long.
Yeah, see the problem I have with that part of the spec is, I wrote the type inference rules for the AMQP spec that Slinky looked at, and then apparently found them super onerous, and so therefore then introduced typecast operators, but they're not SQL. So that's the thing. Like, there is either you do SQL or you don't. But what SQL does is, unless it really needs to help itself, and there's an explicit cast thing in SQL, it uses type inference.
Yeah.
And so this is a bit of a dirty trick, but I haven't been probably haven't been policing this enough. But it's like there are a few things that are weird. Also, probably a little bit much of the string manipulation for my taste. I'm trying to stick as close to the SQL and also to the JMS spec as we can, because ultimately it should be possible for us to use a JMS compliant broker as a cloud events broker, because there's a bunch of them, and effectively ignore all the JMS isms, like all the special JMS stuff, and have a common subset effectively of the JMS expressions. And what we do here and then maybe put a little bit of optional stuff on top if you really feel like it, but mostly stay in line. Now, the problem is we can't reference JMS at all. And we can't lift anything from JMS because JMS is a proprietary spec by Oracle. And the Oracle obviously has issues occasionally with IP and things like that. And so the AMQP filter expression spec that I wrote is effectively clean room reinterpretation of that same syntax. And so that was the goal of that was to kind of to allow for an existing implementation that speaks JMS to also be usable for the constructs that we have in AMQP, but also expanded in a way that you can go and grab particular AMQP elements. And here, the goal would be to use as much of the existing syntax as we can, and then sugar it up with a few extra so that you can go and get do some cloud event specific things if you really need to, but that there is always a common subset between the JMS expressions and the AMQP expressions and the cloud events expressions, so that the 80-90% case just works. That's the hope.
Okay, for me, I have no. I
so
don't
the
mind
casts
any.
are weird, and is bool is obviously super weird.
Yeah, because like there's not much you can do with it, so we can maybe just remove it. In that case, just remove the whole 3.5.1 section if you are against. For me, I have no opinion. I'm just implementing it. It's just
Go ahead,
Doug.
Oh, I was going to say we should probably pull in. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank on the gentleman's name.
Slinky?
No. I think he's from Red Hat now. He used to be at. Yeah, Ahmed. Thank you. Yes, him.
A former colleague of mine. So
yeah, I was going to say. I thought he was a former SAP. Yeah, we should probably pull him in because I think he's been working on the spec and he might have some opinion.
Yeah. Like there's no urgency. It's just while I was implementing it, it raised some question on the useful of this.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about relative to discovery interrupt?
No.
No, you just validated my endpoint, so you.
I know, I'm very exciting, isn't it? All right.
I have to work on the UI for the gateway to kind of, and maybe look at your code so I can integrate it also in my UI, the validation that you did.
Yeah, like I said, I'll try to share my code once I clean it up a little. All right. Okay. In that case, I think we're done. Thank you all for joining.
Okay.
We'll talk again next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, folks.
bye.